That's a wrap. I hope that you were able to experience a mind shift of your own today. Listen, if you loved this podcast, you should totally check out my Life by Design 6-week boot camp. It's a work at your own pace workshop and something that you can do over and over and over again to uplevel your results and get ready for a transformation at the speed of life. Hey there, welcome back. This is episode number 104 and the second in a series of episodes designed to help you create your best year ever, your best life ever, intentionally, on purpose, and deliberately. I am so curious to know how the last couple of weeks went with your brain edit. What did you intentionally allow your brain to consume more of or less of? What did you edit and how? Drop me a note. I would love to know. And I have to share this with you. So if you remember last week's episode, I shared how I was editing anything Real Housewives from my brain. Well, I did, and I took it even further. I really noticed who was in my social media feeds and stories and what their messaging was, and I edited that too. So there's a social media influencer that I have followed for probably 4 or 5 years now, and she's also a graduate of the Life Coach School with me. And in the past year or two, I found myself drawn to her stories and pulled in to check on her stories throughout the day, but not for the content or for brain fueling, but to see the new drama going on in her life. It's always something with her. And that's a terrible reason to follow someone. So I unfollowed her. I had not seen anything for 2 weeks. And then I got curious because, well, that's what brains do. I took a peek and I cannot even explain how differently my brain reacted to her drama. I can only compare it to if you have ever gone for a long period of time without eating sugar and then you do and your body revolts, or if you've given up processed food and then eat unclean and then your body revolts. It's something like that. My brain did that. That's why this work is so incredible and important, because it does not take long to rewire your brain at all. Growth does not take years or months or weeks. It can start in the next minute. So tell me if you did a brain edit and let me know how it's going. All right, so this is week 2 of the series, and we're adding a new layer of intentional living. Number 2, be intentional with who you surround yourself with. I learned a long time ago that you become the average of the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So really think about that. Now, I'm not saying that you need to dump all your friends and get a new spouse so that you can improve your averageness. But if you have a goal to have the best year ever and whatever else you want to call into your life, it's worth taking the time to look at your circle, the circle that you run with whom you are spending the most of your time with. And are they going where you want to go? Are they going to be adding to your best year ever, or are they creating a drag in your growth and your progress and your evolution? And listen, again, if you come to the realization that one of your buddies is not part of your growth plan, it still doesn't mean that you edit that person out of your existence, but maybe you rethink how much time you spend with them. And the one thing that I have noticed is that when you start growing and evolving, some of your circle will jump onto the growth train too, or they will self-select out, and that's totally fine. It doesn't mean anything, so you don't need to make it mean anything. So last year, one of my students brought a situation to me that involved a person who was very significant in her life, but she was also a person who had no other friends. She was rude to other people. She was rude and hateful to her, and yet she was compelled to stay in the relationship. She was staying out of a sense of duty or obligation. After a few weeks of coaching, her brain evolved to the realization that she could still love this person, but she did not have to give them such significance in her life. And when she got to that point, so many opportunities opened up for her to call into her life, and she began to experience and feed the growth that she was seeking. She could see how this person's agenda was to hold her back with her and all of the misery. And when she looked at a few things differently, she was able to see the possibility of a relationship that was not serving her and how she could move beyond it. This exercise isn't about canceling people, but it is about taking a look and being honest about how we get comfortable, our brains get comfortable around people who are not necessarily challenging our own growth or sharpening our skills and making us want to become more evolved as humans. In fact, misery loves company. And if we're being honest, it gets very easy to get sucked into the vortex with them and start living their misery instead of our joy. Last year, I noticed myself getting really pulled into another person's misery by listening to their stories and listening to them complaining. And then I found myself joining in at that level myself. I started noticing how I was feeling after visiting with her, and I felt miserable, less energetic, and annoyed. That is the kind of stuff that takes away from the energy that you will need to create your best year ever, your best life ever. So this is an opportunity to be intentional with getting pulled into conversations like that with people that we know darn good and well. That's just how they are. And look, they get to be that way if that's working for them. But we do not have to be part of it. We can have our own back, and we can be very intentional with who we surround ourselves with and who we spend most of our time with and what we talk about with them. Seek out the people who have similar growth goals, people who want to strengthen themselves mentally and physically and spiritually, all the things that you value. Seek them out intentionally, on purpose, deliberately. And then, if you have that person in your circle that just isn't going the same direction, love them. Be compassionate and understand that you don't have to be part of that. You get to be you, and you get to be the you that you are growing into. This edit goes for your newsfeed. Clean it up and fill it up with stories and posts that serve you and grow you and nourish and enrich you. Now, your current self-image is going to struggle with this because the Taco Tuesday crowd is easy to be around. And if that's your goal, rock on. But if you have a heart's desire for something different and more and better, then don't be afraid to take a look. Make some decisions. Set some boundaries for yourself. Set boundaries that say they get to show up how they show up, and I get to show up how I show up. And if I'm not down with that, I get to excuse myself. When you think about your future self, what is her circle like? What does she like to do? How does your circle treat each other? How do they talk about their friends and family? Imagine all of it. Here is the vision that I have. My circle helps each other out without waiting to be asked. They don't say, let me know if I can do anything to help. They just do it. They nurture each other and themselves. They are impeccable with their word, and they love unconditionally. So here's the key to inviting that and attracting that into your life. Be that first. Whatever it is that you came up with, be that first and foremost to yourself and then to others. I just joined a board of a horse organization, and I have done that before in the past and then quickly determined not my people. The way they talked about each other and to each other was not acceptable to me. And the way they treated each other was not acceptable at all. And so as quickly as I could, I exited the relationship. And that is sometimes what you have to do when you find yourself surrounded by people who aren't really your people. Now, they get to do and be whatever they want to be. It's not about changing them, but you get to be that amazing human that you want to be too. Does that make sense? Sometimes we stay in the circle because we feel like we have to keep going, like we've committed to something. And yes, you do. To you, that's who you need to be committed to first and foremost. And listen, it's not kind to stay in a circle in which you are miserable out of some idea that you are breaking a commitment. And this is being responsible for your growth and your evolution as a human. Your future self will thank you. Sometimes we have the idea that we have to figure out how not to be bothered by it, not to be bothered by their behavior. And that is for sure not what I am teaching with this thought work stuff. We don't want to make it mean anything about us for sure, but we get to decide what we are available for. For the same reason that I did a brain edit with the Real Housewives franchise, I'm becoming even more intentional with who I surround myself with. For the same reason I don't want to consume entertainment that is about tearing each other down and drama, I don't want to surround myself in real time with people like that because look, I'm human. I get sucked in just as easy as anyone else. That's an easy neural pathway for me to jump on. And then I wonder why I'm not hitting my goals after all the time that I spent in mindless and destructive conversations. So this week, be intentional with the people you surround yourself with. All right, my friends, that is what I have for you this week. And now go have the best day ever. That's a wrap. I hope that you were able to experience a mind shift of your own today. Listen, if you love this podcast, you should totally check out my Life by Design 6-week bootcamp. It's a work at your own pace workshop and something that you can do over and over and over again to uplevel your results and get ready for a transformation at the speed of life.